It starts with a question that almost feels dangerous to ask. What if the story of the Greek people, the people who gave the world philosophy, drama, mathematics, and democracy, is not what we've always believed? What if the blood that flowed through the first Greeks wasn't from one world, but two? For generations, the idea of Greece has been wrapped in the image of a clean, self-contained beginning, the birthplace of Europe, untouched and independent. But DNA doesn't respect borders or stories. It remembers everything. And when scientists finally cracked open the ancient bones buried beneath the islands of the Aegean, a very different truth stepped into the light. A truth that suggests the Greeks were never simply European and never simply Middle Eastern. They were something far more interesting. Traditionally, the story begins the same way in every schoolbook. Crete rises first, home of the mysterious Minoans, the builders of labyrinthine palaces and bright frescoes. Then come the Mycenaeans, storming across the mainland with gold masks, chariots, and the early seeds of the Greek language. And eventually, classical Greece blooms, a civilization painted as the pure foundation of the Western world. The message was always simple. Greek culture grew from Greek soil, shaped only by itself. But that tidy version of history starts cracking the moment genetics enters the room. When researchers extracted DNA from Bronze Age skeletons, people who lived 3,000–4,000 years ago, what they found didn't fit the old narrative at all. The origins of the first Greeks weren't local in the way we were taught, nor were they outsiders in the way old theories once claimed. Instead, they were something in between, a blend. A crossing of worlds that had been separate only on paper. That's the first twist. The earliest Aegean people, the Minoans, were not an isolated island civilization. Their DNA carried three major threads. The first came from the first farmers of Anatolia, who crossed into the Aegean around 7000 BC, bringing crops and village life. The second came from the older hunter-gatherer groups, who had survived in southern Europe since the Ice Age. But then there was the third thread, unexpected, ancient, and unmistakable, a genetic signal tied to older populations of the Near East and the Caucasus. It wasn't huge, but it was there, pulsing through the bones of Europe's first palace builders. Then comes the second twist. The Mycenaeans, the people who would eventually be recognized as the first Greeks, had everything the Minoans had and something extra. A new ancestry stream, small but important. A slice of steppe DNA, carried by migrants who had spread Indo-European languages across Europe and parts of Asia. This infusion didn't replace the older Aegean population, it joined it, blended with it. And somewhere in that blend, the earliest form of the Greek language was born. For the first time, genetics had pinpointed the moment when Greece became Greece. Even more surprising was this: the ancestral fingerprints of these ancient people are still found in modern Greeks today, strong, clear, and deeply rooted. The past didn't disappear, it survived. Before this story continues, this is the kind of truth uncovered every day on GenealogyX, where ancient bones and modern DNA turn history inside out. Subscribe to uncover the mysteries hidden in your own bloodline. Once the Bronze Age faded and the classical world emerged, Greece didn't become more isolated, it became even more connected. The Aegean turned into a crossroads, where sailors, traders, and travelers constantly passed through. The Mycenaeans traded with Egypt and the Levant. They borrowed ideas from Canaanite scripts. They shared artistic symbols with Anatolia. Their gods carried echoes, ancient sounds from older Near Eastern religions. The evidence doesn't rely on guesswork. Archaeology, linguistics, and genetics all point in the same direction. Ideas were moving across the Mediterranean, and so were people. This movement didn't erase Greek identity, it shaped it. Every layer of ancestry added something. The Neolithic farmers brought agriculture. The local hunter-gatherers contributed resilience and long-standing ties to the land. The Near Eastern-related groups added complexity to early Aegean culture. The steppe newcomers carried a language that would eventually become Greek. These weren't separate stories, they were ingredients. The results became unmistakable. The spirals and fluid art of Crete, the gold masks of Mycenaean kings, the rise of city-states, the poetry of Homer, the debates of Athens. Nothing in Greek civilization came from a single source. It grew where worlds met. And here's the part that might surprise modern audiences the most. Through all the conquests, migrations, empires, collapses, and rebuildings, Greek DNA stayed, at its core, incredibly stable. Even when new groups entered northern regions during the Middle Ages, the genetic studies show something unexpected. These influences blended in, but didn't replace the ancient structure. The old Aegean ancestry, Minoan, Mycenaean, early Mediterranean, remained dominant. This brings us to the third twist, perhaps the biggest one. Modern Greeks are still closest to the ancient Mycenaeans, more than to modern Middle Eastern populations, and more than to some neighboring Europeans. Their genetic signature sits exactly where geography predicts it should be, between Southern Europe and the Eastern Mediterranean. Not one or the other. Both. Because being Greek never meant being from a single origin. It meant being at the place where origins meet. And this has implications far beyond genetics. If the first Europeans carried ancestry tied to the Near East, what does that say about the idea of Europe itself? If the foundation of Western civilization came from a blend of continents, isn't the entire idea of pure origins just a myth we tell ourselves? Modern Greeks still carry the same ancestral mix in different proportions. The old Mediterranean farmer ancestry is still strong. The ancient Aegean blend is still visible. The steppe contribution is unchanged from thousands of years ago. And that older, Near Eastern-related signal, small but ever-present, still threads through the bloodlines of the region. So what does this mean for identity? If Greece, the civilization held up as the beginning of the West, was never a closed world, then perhaps our definitions of who belongs where need to change. Maybe our histories aren't boxes. Maybe they're rivers. Does a mixture of ancestries make a nation weaker or more deeply human? If the Greeks themselves were shaped by migrations from both Europe and the Middle East, then what exactly is a boundary? And why do we cling so tightly to the idea that one region must be separate from another? Maybe the power of Greek civilization didn't come from purity, but from openness. Would you want to know if your ancestry crossed continents? Would it change how you see yourself, your family, your heritage, your place in the world? Because when all the DNA is laid out, the story becomes clear. Greece was never just a point on the map. It was a meeting place, a hinge between two worlds that weren't nearly as separate as modern politics make them seem. A civilization born from the mixing of peoples who shared ideas, beliefs, and blood long before borders were invented. And the truth might be the most beautiful surprise of all. The Greeks were not simply European. They were not simply Middle Eastern. They were a conversation between the two, a living bridge carried through time. That conversation never ended. It still flows in the DNA of the people who live there today. If you've enjoyed exploring how DNA overturns the myths of history, subscribe to GenealogyX. We reveal 2 new genetic mysteries every single day, reminding us how connected we truly are.